Hello,
Hello.
welcome back to the channel. Today is the next part in our chronicle of our experience of PDA from pregnancy all the way through diagnosis and beyond. So if you haven't already, please make sure you check out the previous videos. They'll be linked somewhere around here. And today we're going to be talking about our experience with nursery and what that was like for us. So whilst we were waiting to see a consultant paediatrician to try and get a diagnosis, obviously Max was getting older and we wanted him to go to nursery because we were concerned, especially that because he had so much anxiety around separation and new experiences, we wanted to try and introduce him being in a new environment away from us as soon as possible, because in our mind he would be going to school when he was 5 and we wanted to try and bridge that gap gradually. And we'd always, we live where we live, there's a nursery around the corner, there's a school around the corner. It would always just be a given that he would go to that nursery, he'd go to that school. And we talked to him about it in the cars. We drive past them, we go, there's the nursery you're going to go to, there's the school you're going to go to. He didn't go to either of them.
He went to the nursery, but not
we went to the nursery for
2 sessions.
2 sessions.
That was it.
He still at 8 remembers how distressing that session was. He will still talk about it, and when we went to look around schools, he was still worried about it because we didn't understand and they didn't understand what he needed, and it was just a bad experience for all of us involved.
I got the impression from the nursery staff as well that they thought it was us that was being particularly clingy. We were happy to leave and happy to go, and we wanted him to be happy in the environment as much as any parent would be, but we were made to feel like it was us again.
They said they would ring us if he got upset.
Yeah.
And then when we came to pick him up, he was crying, and they said, oh yeah, he's been crying since you left.
They texted me and said that he was perfectly fine, not to worry, he's super, he stopped crying and everything. And then I got told that he'd been crying the whole time. We never took him back after that because that to me is just wrong. You don't do that.
And he, like I say, he still remembers now. He still remembers going there and crying, feeling really scared and anxious. And when we went to look around schools, he would ask the teachers, is it okay to cry if I'm scared? Because he'd obviously been told it wasn't okay to cry in that nursery, and that just stuck in his brain.
We then tried a Montessori nursery, and that proved to be difficult as well.
They seemed to really understand what he needed until it came to the point of him being anxious about us leaving, or one of us not being there, and we tried to negotiate a gradual change so that I would stay, or you would stay for a session, and the next session we would stay and leave 20 minutes before the end and come back, and then gradually increase it. And that wasn't something that they felt they could deal with for whatever reason. So unfortunately that second nursery we then had to pull him out of as well, and then we had a bit of a gap where we decided, okay, it's not worth the stress and the difficulty of going through this. What's he really getting out of it? We were getting anxious about it.
And we had a newborn baby as well at the same time, so it was just like, do you know what? Let's just leave it. Let's just leave it for a bit. Let him mature a little bit more, and let him grow. So he was 3 when we eventually found this really, really nice nursery that he went to, and they were amazing. They were so supportive, and the lady there who was with him, pretty much every session that he was there, she really, really helped him, and he learnt to be without us, which was amazing.
But they were willing to do it slowly.
Very slowly.
So it took, I think, probably a month of 3 sessions a week before he was able to be left on his own. And at no point, once we'd agreed that this was what was going to happen, was it made to feel like this was a problem. It was fantastic for us because we didn't want to be there. The whole point of him going to nursery was so we could have some time with our newborn baby while he was being looked after and do other things. We didn't want to be spending the time at the nursery as well. What's the point of paying for the nursery if you want to be there with him? But it had to be such a gradual process. So the first week, I think, the first 3 sessions, I stayed all the way through. And then I think the second week, I went off to make a phone call. So I'd only be gone for 5 minutes. And then the 3rd week, we extended that to where we'd be gone for maybe half an hour. And so he'd gradually get used to the idea that I wouldn't be there, but I'd come back. And then I think by the 4th, maybe the 5th week, I would then leave him for progressively longer until eventually I was leaving him for the full 3 hours. But I would still sit in the car outside the nursery in case he got distressed, or in case they couldn't calm him down. Thankfully, there was never an issue where I had to go back in. And after a week of doing that, we felt confident enough that I would come home. We didn't live that far away from the nursery if something did happen anyway. And he was able to settle in, and that was through them understanding. And we still didn't know what PDA was, and didn't know he had PDA, which had been an issue at the previous nursery because we didn't have a diagnosis. So they were like, well, if we haven't got a diagnosis, then no guarantee there's anything going on. But this nursery were much more willing to take into account what we were saying and work with us, and thank goodness they did, because I don't think he would have been able to go to a nursery, and it definitely helped his confidence and his social skills, being able to play with other children and make friends with them, which he wouldn't have been able to get otherwise. One thing we did have to alter and change him though was meal times when he was at nursery, because as I'm sure a lot of other people who have children who've got autistic spectrum disorders, PDA or anything else, find that eating is a big issue. He has certain safe foods that he will eat, and anything outside of that is very difficult. And because we wanted him to stay for a full day at nursery, obviously he was going to be eating. So we negotiated with the cook of the nursery that she would make him, on the days where he was staying the full day, she would make him meals of the items, so chicken, rice and sweet corn.
Yeah.
And the days when he wasn't staying, we would pick him up before lunchtime rather than come in after lunch, so that wouldn't be too much of a burden on their resources to try and make a different meal for him more than once a week.
And that made all the difference to Max. It was really helpful that they could be that flexible. I think that's all it takes really, is just a little bit of flexibility, which often places aren't able to do.
But obviously he couldn't stay at nursery forever, as much as he probably would have wanted to. And so we were aware that the time was approaching where he would be going to school, and we went and looked around schools, and we eventually found a school we wanted to go to, and we'll cover that experience in the next section. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you found that video useful. If you haven't already, please make sure you check out the previous videos in the series, and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload. The next video should be on school. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.